Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. Welcome back to the Wealth Stackers community call. Try to go over anything stack anybody has any questions on, but I also try to help the community members with anything I can help them with, whether that be in their businesses or using technology, anything that I could do to help the community. That's what I do in these calls. I'll start out with anybody have any questions about anything. It doesn't have to only be stack. If you do, now's the time. You can ask and I can speak about it. And we could if you come up with a question later, you could always jump in and ask as well. Anybody have any questions? All right. So I'll start out with we've been testing a new feature that's kind of amazing. Um, I'm gonna roll it out by recording a video and showing it. So I'm gonna explain it to you guys first, you guys in the community. So the way it works is as you build up your stack wallets, your health score grows, right? So what a health score is, just in case you don't fully know, because some of you are newer, as you buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the price grows, the distance between your collateral and your loan, they grow. And when they grow, your health score grows. So if you look at your stack dashboard, you'll see the health score, and you can see that number keeps growing. So as that number grows to a certain level, you can borrow more money without bringing in any money. So I have a wallet right now that can borrow $150,000 without bringing in any money. So they can buy 150K of Bitcoin and Ethereum without any of their own money. And then we'll protect it and help it grow as well, growing there and paying down the loan as it goes. So that's really exciting. We've been testing it in internal wallets and testing wallets. Works pretty nicely. We're gonna release it with a big video that you can see a person. They may not borrow all 150,000 just to be safe. They're probably going to borrow maybe 100 to be safe. Um, so that's one thing. Another thing we just did is we changed the daily investment instead of going into 30 days, because the way we did it is when we first created this, we thought people were going to be bringing in money every week, every month. So if you bring in every month, we take 30 days to invest all the money you bring in. But what we started to see is two major trends. People started to bring in more than once a month. So it kept resetting their amounts, but they will have a lot more dollars, because if you bring in every week, you're bringing in more and more dollars, and it keeps pushing out the 30 days for more and more dollars. So one of the customers asked, can I shrink that to be maybe 15 days? So I always used to say, no, I don't think that's a good idea, because the way the market works. But then a second trend appeared that made us rethink that, which is as we're growing the health score, we protect the wallet. So we end up protecting more often than we used to. So now what's happening to people who bring in every week is happening to everybody. So you end up with a lot more dollars, and they keep being recalculated to be 30 days. And that math was off for the last few weeks as we were playing with this. Now we have it so it's going to reinvest over 15 days. When you bring in money new, it's still going to do 30 days. The reason why we leave that one as 30 days is because if the market is going up, it normally doesn't go straight up for 30 days. So we don't want it to invest everything while the market is going up. But if the market comes down and we have to protect you, then okay, that means the market came down. It's good to collapse how many days we start investing. So again, we have an AI that looks at all the wallets. We look at all the wallets, and we ask for different things to try, but then we definitely listen to customers. So if you ever have any questions or any ideas of something you would like the app to do, please always, in the school community, if you have my number, text me. I think this is a way of building a product together where people want things that we never thought. So to be honest, the whole flash loan thing came from a customer. I never thought people would want to do that. And a customer 2 years ago was like, why don't you take a flash loan on our behalf so we can bring in less money? So I was like, that's actually a really good idea. So I did it. And now, because we have that technology, we can take a flash loan without you bringing in any money. But that took us a while to get to, because the health scores have to be at a certain level, and only very few people that were consistent will ever get to those levels. But now everybody's getting to those levels because we do it automatically. So those two things are the major updates that you might see already on the 15-day thing. You may see higher numbers being invested per day. If you don't, let me know. We're still testing that. And the second thing is hopefully this week I'll be dropping a video on the community. I'll put it in the community. I'm not gonna put it on YouTube. I'm gonna let the community do it first. Um, if you decide to, you don't have to. And then there's a possibility of automatically setting it to take loans whenever you want. So you can set, these are things we're playing with internally as well, is we can set it so when we see certain things in the charts, like this is a low, borrow money now automatically without you having to go in and do it. So there's things like that that we're playing around with as well. There's a lot of exciting things because if you think about it as an investor, right? Most investors that get rich by borrowing money. Real estate investors borrow 80% of the money they use to get rich. Every transaction, they're borrowing 80%. And they buy multiple properties, and now they have millions and millions of dollars of properties. But they got to put down a percent. They got to put down something. Imagine what we are going to be able to do when you don't need to bring in money, but you can borrow money to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, which I'm going to say it again because you weren't here last week, Annie, but if you use AI like ChatGPT, I'm telling everybody to do an exercise. Ask ChatGPT what's the best thing to invest in over the next 20 years. And you're going to see that it says Bitcoin and Ethereum and explains why. Explains, and if you don't understand what it's saying, you could always ask more. But basically, it comes down to all of the asset class have huge holes in their logic, right? So one, I'll give you the quick version of this. Real estate it's always been a tried and true investment that people make and say, yeah, it grows in value. But the truth is, what people are realizing now is it doesn't really outpace inflation. It actually doesn't keep up with inflation. But it seems good because you feel like, okay, I bought this thing for X and now it's worth Y. If you live in it, it's a different thing. But if you're buying it for investment purposes, it tends to not be as good of return on investment as people think it does. So that's one thing. Then stocks, as we're seeing right now in the stock market, really about 7 to 10 companies are holding up the whole stock market. And at any moment, now because of AI, something could come along and disrupt one of these companies. And if you think about it, Google is a good example. Google came up with the technology of a GPT. OpenAI took that technology and created ChatGPT. And now, I don't know about you, but I use ChatGPT more than I use Google. Luckily, Google has been spending money on R&D like crazy, so they have other things that are going to be able to make them money. But if they just stuck to their main bread and butter, meaning go to a website, ask a question, or search something, and then click a link, make money through ads, they would be dead right now, right? Because nobody's doing that, or nobody will do that soon. So what that means for the stock market means you could have your money in a stock where that company gets destroyed by AI and some other company comes out of nowhere and just destroys that company, and you have a lot of stock sitting there and now it's not worth as much. That's going to become more and more possible. I don't know if it will happen, but that's one of the ideas of why the stock market might not do as well. Also, the truth is it's only a few companies that are making all the gains in the S&P 500. So stocks is another thing that even the top financial firms are saying that you can't bank on the same returns of stock over the next 10 years. So you got to look up that. And then when you look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's an up and coming asset class. They're passing laws all over the globe that allow their citizens to use it more and invest in it in countries and funds. And now they just put it in the 401k for everybody to invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is an up and coming asset that gives people freedom of movement and technology. Look, Stack is built on Ethereum and it uses Bitcoin, right? And I'm just one company that's doing this. There's millions of companies. Aave, which is our lender, They have $60 billion of people doing this, and it's just starting. So all this stuff is going to get bigger and bigger. And they just passed what's called the Genius Act, which allows any bank or any financial institution with the right licenses to create their own stable coins. What that means is trillions of dollars are going to come on chain and do stuff like what we're doing. So what is a person that has money on chain going to want to do? They're going to want to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and other coins as well, for sure. But that's going to be a thing. And then when you think about, I just did something. I put up a video in the community. I'm not sure if everybody got to see it, but I just did something that's really interesting that once people understand this is possible, they're going to want to do. Our collectors for many years have been doing this, but it took a certain level of wealth to do it. So they would buy like a Picasso. Picasso costs $100 million. Then they go to a bank and they say, hey, I have this Picasso. Lend me $50 million against my Picasso. The bank says, sure, because if you don't give us the money, we take your Picasso. So they get $50 million and they have this painting. And over time, this painting grows in value, but they also have money to use. So I was able to do this with an NFT. NFTs are like digital art. You may or may not believe in their, validity and all that, but that doesn't mean that they're not official and they're not something that's happening. Last week, one of the NFTs I bought 4 years ago just went up to $10,000 very randomly. You got a question, Greg? Okay. It went up to $10,000 very randomly. So I thought about this Picasso thing, and I was like, you know what? I can borrow off of this. So what I do, I started going to different websites. I borrowed off the NFT. I was able to get a $3,000 loan. I took that loan and I stacked it. So now I have a $10,000 value painting, a digital art piece worth $10,000. And I took the $3,000 and I turned it into $10,000 in stack. So now that 10,000 in Bitcoin and Ethereum as it invests, hopefully as the bull run happens, it grows. If the NFT keeps growing in value, I can keep borrowing off that NFT. So now if you think about the future of like all these asset classes, everybody's going to want to do this. The thing is that before only very wealthy people could do it. But I was able to do it without asking anybody anything with a $10,000 piece of art, which most people would think, why is it even worth doing that? But I created $20,000 of assets with $10,000 of the value of a painting that of a digital piece of art that literally 2-3 months ago was worth like $1,000. And it went up to 10,000 very randomly. I don't know why it did or why. I don't know. It's a market, so it grows in value based on what people want to pay. And that's another beautiful thing, that it's a global market where anybody across the world can tell me they want to pay me for my painting, my digital piece of art. And I'm able to borrow off of it. And if that piece of art keeps growing, I can keep doing that. And this NFTs worth millions of dollars. And people are doing this for millions of dollars. So this is another thing that once people understand, they're going to do. Another thing I just heard is they're going to start moving home deeds into NFTs, because there's a big problem when you invest in real estate. Oh yeah, no, this is crazy stuff. When you invest in real estate, one of the big ChatGPT, I use, ChatGPT said crypto to you. Wow, I haven't used Grok. I need to test Grok. They're gonna turn home deeds and like what is it called? Yeah, deeds into NFTs, because there's ways to really game that system, and there's people that kind of steal property in a way where they'll sell your property like if they own it, because there's all kind of ways of getting around that kind of the old world of who owns a house. But if it's on an NFT and on a blockchain, they can't fake it, and it's easy verifiable. So that's going to start happening, and I wonder what happens there, because then you possibly could take out a loan against your deed on a house, right? So, in which you can do with a bank, but imagine being able to do it in a decentralized way where a bank can't tell you no. So these are the things that I look at and I'm saying this world is going to explode. The more you understand it, the more you come to stuff like this, the more you ask in the community. If you see anything, put it there and I'll answer. I'm trying to also get more community activation going. So I'm thinking different things. I'm going to try to do something around a leaderboard because in school there's a leaderboard. So I'm gonna figure out how to make it a contest where I do giveaways there. I'm also gonna create some type of referral program where there will be rewards for referrals. So there'll be like tiers of people who refer other people. Um, yeah, so I've been talking a lot. Any questions about anything from anybody based on anything I just said, let me know. Maurice, are you raising your hand? Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
No problem, no problem. Okay, if there's no questions about anything, let me see what else I can discuss. Let's discuss the bull run, actually. Awesome, awesome. Yeah. So just keep coming to these, and definitely if you have any questions while the weeks are passing, you could throw them in the school community. You could DM me. But I do want to create more of a community thing. So if you could post questions in the community and let the community also see the answer, that will help me as well. Um, so here's what I see. Let's actually start looking at the charts. Let's go into the fun stuff. Oh, also, before I even get to that, a big thing happened last week. I think part of my duty as a entrepreneur and I don't know, a person that's trying to help people is getting people to see the power of what's happening in technology. So ChatGPT 5 was launched last week and it was game changing. I don't think there's a lot of people that even said they think OpenAI downplayed how powerful of an update it was to not scare people. Um, but since the day it dropped, I've been up to 2 o'clock in the morning every day playing with this thing, and I basically feel like a god. It's funny to say, but anything I want to do, I can do it like that. So that night I'm working on content for Stack, right? I do different things to promote Stack, like I make videos, I talk online, I do these calls, I do YouTube videos. But I've always wanted to. I went to school for animation. I don't know if everybody knows that, but I went to school for animation because I wanted to create stories. When I was young, I used to draw, and I always wanted to do animation. And I got into technology because once I went into animation, I learned that it wasn't anymore people drawing every frame, it was technology. So I learned about technology. And now I've always wanted to create a series, a cartoon, stuff like that. So I started talking to ChatGPT about helping me concept that. In one night, it helped me write literally a Game of Thrones style story about a future where the population is divided by people who own assets and people who don't. So my whole story is based on what happens in an AI world where there's people who own assets and people who don't. So I'm going back and forth with this thing. It's helping me think it out. It's giving me research. And I'm writing the whole story. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so addicting. So at one point, I ask it, I say, okay, what can I do with this story to help me promote Stack? Because the overall idea is I want people to think what happens in a world where there's people with assets and people that don't, and AI is doing everything. So it mentioned games. It said that one of the most popular content consumption vehicles, mostly for younger people, is video games. So I said, you know what? That's interesting, but games are hard. And I said, you know what? Let me see if ChatGPT can help me make a game. In one night, I made a game by literally just speaking to ChatGPT. Something that years ago I hired multiple developers, paid them thousands of dollars. They didn't even do what I did in one night with ChatGPT. And I was like, oh my God. And I've been so addicted to creating this story and this game that I've been up to 2 o'clock in the morning every day since ChatGPT launched. And part of why I'm bringing this up is whatever you've wanted to do as an entrepreneur, as a creative person, I feel like we all are creative. We just get like the creative taken away from us by the world. Um, you now have this assistant that's smarter than anybody you could know, that will answer any question 24/7, including till 2 o'clock in the morning, not get frustrated. And it costs $20. Actually, there's a free version. There's a free version, you just get less questions you can ask. This is like an insane thing that I more want to make sure people understand and take advantage of, because one of the things I notice is we have hundreds of people use Stack now, and people are losing their jobs a lot. And I get the calls. Hey, I can't really stack because I'm losing. I don't make as much money. I haven't had a job in 6 months, and I'm realizing you can invest, but if you don't have income, at a certain point, you're going to need to spend those investments. So you need to figure out how to have consistent income for as long as possible to not have to spend your investments. So one of my thoughts as community is, what can I do to make sure the people in this community are as prepared as possible if something like that happens? Because I used to talk a lot about AI happening to my earlier community. I had a community on Kajabi a few years ago, like in 2021. And I would talk about what was happening now to them and say, hey, you really got to start figuring something out. Based on each person, I would tell them, yeah, I think that type of job is going to go away. Most people didn't believe me. And again, even me, I thought this would happen years from now. It's happening a lot faster than anybody thought, including the people creating it. Sam Altman used to always say, yeah, by 2030, we think people are going to have to retrain. Now he's saying 2026. So it's like 4 or 5 years of speed that they didn't see coming. And what happens if this gets faster and faster, which it just is. A month before ChatGPT 5, Grok, you mentioned it, Annie, dropped. Grok gets so when you do your PhD, which a PhD is like 1% of the population in the world. Once you get your PhD, there's this test that you take, I guess, I don't know the exact, to see how competent you are in that field. What I heard was most people struggle to get like a 70 in that test. Grok gets 100 in every field. And that came out a month before ChatGPT 5, and ChatGPT 5 destroys Grok. So every month we're seeing like these massive leaps in intelligence that we don't even know what's going to happen. But what I try to tell people is, look at this like the computer. If you know how to use a computer, you're ahead of a lot of people who don't know how to use a computer. But there were people that were like, I don't want to have to use a computer. I don't want to do that. And those people are kind of screwed right now, right? AI is that now. I have conversations with many people, and a lot of people view AI in different ways. So I try to get them to not view it as a writing partner. That's the big one. People are like, yeah, but I don't need it. I know how to write. And I'm like, that's how you're using ChatGPT. Like you need to use it more. You got to think about it as a thinking partner. So as I was saying that night, once ChatGPT 5 dropped, I said, okay, help me write a good story in the style of stories I like, and I think a lot of people liked. So I said, the shows that I think have been impactful are shows like Game of Thrones, The Wire. So I said, they're similar but very different stories, but there's something about those two styles that I really think people get attracted to. So I said, I want to create a story that really shows people a world where AI is doing all the work for us, which is what's kind of happening. And what happens to people that chose to buy the future asset and the people that didn't. So it literally kept just asking me questions about what I think and how can I move that along. Go ahead, Maurice, any question?
Keep going. I'm just agreeing with you. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem, no problem.
That yes, this is totally the way of the future. So for folks that don't know, I'm in education,
Oh, okay.
and there is a um, futuristic idea. And if anyone is familiar with unions, and particularly teacher unions, it's very scary because if you've seen the evolution, it went from adult being in the front of the classroom, being the actual instructor and content area expert, to now they're much more of a, I just need to make sure these kids don't kill each other. The 45
Babysitters,
minutes they're in front of me.
babysitters for sure.
And then truthfully, let the kids who learn, and the kids who don't. And ChatGPT and all of these different groks and artificial intelligence is really facilitating that transfer of knowledge to what is going to be a new school. And the new school is the teacher merely being a mentor and tutor, and the technology is what will teach actual information. The adult, as to how we knew it and will future know it, is not going to look the same in any way possible in future generations.
There's already a school. I've been researching this where the kids, you know how regular school, you're in science one first year, science two second year, science three third year. If you want to go to science seven, you could just do that because you want to, if that's what you're interested in, you'll just keep going deeper and deeper into science. And you can be in college level science while you're in high school because that's their chosen interest, right? And I was just talking, my wife is a teacher, and I was telling her about this, and she was talking about what you were just saying, Maurice. She's like, the school system is gonna fight this to the death. They're already not wanting kids to use ChatGPT, which is kind of like saying don't use a computer of the future, right? And it's like crazy to tell people not to use the thing they're going to be using because it definitely protects your business model. And this is another thing that most businesses and people have to really think now because if you look at it, look at Google. We spoke about Google. Google, when it first came out, it was this new algorithm of search. They went to Yahoo and they told Yahoo, hey, we'll sell this to you for $1 million. Yahoo, because it was against their business interest, because Yahoo was a website that they wanted to keep people on their website, they said, we don't want this thing. I don't care how much. We're not paying $1 million for it. Were they wrong? Of course they were wrong, but they were stuck in their old business model and it didn't let them see the next thing coming. Google invented GPTs, but they didn't want to change a website that you have to click and go into websites, other websites, because GPTs would affect that. So OpenAI comes and just does it, and now Google has to catch up when they invented it. There's a bunch of stories like this, Netflix, and Blockbuster, all these different types. But what they're saying now is this is going to happen much faster now. And education is already 100-year-old system that they should have changed a long time ago. It was created for factory workers, and it still works the exact same way. Definitely going to be changed. I was even thinking about this recently. Like, I may want to homeschool my next son that goes to high school. I'm like, they're gonna teach him stuff that has nothing to do with what life is gonna be. They're still teaching. I have a friend who's in school for development. They're not even teaching him how to use AI right now. And I showed him the game I coded. He was like, I don't even think my teacher can make this game. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. I make this game in Actually, you know what? I should show you how easy this shit is. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna show you live me making this game, how it works. Check this out. This is all code. I haven't written one line of this code. You can see this? You can see what I'm doing, right? I haven't written one line of code. This is
Yes, we
what
can
I
see.
do. This is what I do. Actually, I'm gonna play the game for a second and show you. Okay, so the game idea is around an AI that has to survive by getting assets. So it picks up coins and those coins keep it alive. That's the start of the game, right? So you run, it goes around, it shoots, and then you pick up the coins. And if you don't pick up any coins, you die, right? So didn't start out this way, but then I came up with a system that it upgrades over time. You can upgrade your weapons, all this crazy stuff. And all I do is, okay, let me see, what do I want to update in this game? Let's think about something to update. Um, okay, I want to make it so the things it drops, I'm gonna say I want these things to disappear over a certain amount of time. So check what I do. I go in, I'm gonna speak to it. I want the material items to disappear over time. I don't want them to stay on the screen forever and make them randomly disappear at different times. Right? So this AI thing I use, maybe it doesn't work while I'm on. Okay, so it didn't work because I'm on Zoom, but it will usually put what I spoke into this. So now I just press that, and the AI is going to start changing the code for me. See, it's planning, considering. I don't know what grepping even means. So eventually it's going to be done. Look, it's starting to change the code. It's going to be done, and I just have to accept the changes. And then I reload this page, and the changes will be there. So I started this whole thing with just a circle in the middle of the screen that shoots. Then I created the enemies. Then I created, and of course, it looks pretty low level, but I could always update. I'm just trying to come up with an idea. And in literally 3 days, all this crazy stuff. So look, fire rate, so now it shoots faster. And if you've ever programmed, you know games is one of the hardest things to program. A website is like child's play compared to a game. So the fact that I can make this game in a couple days on the side is pretty insane. All right, let's see if it's finished. Okay, it's still going. Some things take longer than others, but pretty crazy that literally I could go do something else, come back, and it'll be done. All right, so while it's doing that, I wanted to start talking about the charts anyway. Any questions about anything I just said too? Anything? All right. So let's go into the charts. Okay, so this is the Bitcoin chart, which is awesome, but the Ethereum chart is better. Look at this, right? And look at ETH. And look at Bitcoin going up, but Ethereum is kind of, most people thought Ethereum would do a more higher multiple than Bitcoin in this bull run over time. Bitcoin did have a better run earlier. Of course, Bitcoin went from 20K to 120, and Ethereum was still sitting around the same exact amount. Go ahead, Maurice. What's the question?
So, can you explain again the difference between Bitcoin, crypto, Ethereum? You've done it before, but just I need to hear it again.
For sure, for sure.
How are stable coins different?
Okay. So Bitcoin was the granddaddy, the first to create what's called the blockchain. Well, technically it wasn't the first, but first popular blockchain that people actually used. What that means is you can transfer wealth and value between parties anywhere in the world by just moving data. And what the blockchain allows you to do is verify that data. So if I sent you one Bitcoin, Maurice, and then you said, "Hey, Miguel, I never got it." How could I prove that, right? But now with the blockchain, I can go into the blockchain and visually see, well, your wallet is this address, right? Look, everybody agrees I sent one Bitcoin from my address to your address. You definitely got it. So you don't have to trust anymore, one, that I sent it, and I don't have to trust that you got it. It's gonna happen because on the blockchain. And that's what all the miners are doing. Every time a miner mines Bitcoin, they're also managing the ledger that makes sure all the transactions are up to date. So that's why it's like a whole ecosystem of Bitcoin. That's what Bitcoin does. Ethereum is a separate idea that came from actually a person who used to work at the Bitcoin magazine. He thought, why not program applications on top of Bitcoin? But early on, those developers didn't want Bitcoin to be anything other than a transfer of value. So they created Ethereum, which was what does the difference between that blockchain is it does what's called smart contracts. So the reason we can do borrowing, lending, NFTs is because Ethereum allows a smart contract. So a simple idea for a smart contract is what most programming is. If this happens, then that happens. So what Ethereum does is, and think about our application with Stack, if you bring in $1,000, then Stack will borrow 2,500, bring it into your wallet automatically. So the smart contract of Ethereum's infrastructure allows us to do things like that. And that's why you don't need a bank, you don't need an approval, credit, none of that, because again, nobody has to trust that I really sent you 1,000, I really got the loan. It's all on the blockchain. So that's the major difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. So most people see Bitcoin as like digital gold, where it's like a store of value that can be transferred. And most people see Ethereum as digital oil that powers an economy, right? So like you can build applications that do things like a car. You can build a car on Ethereum. You can't build a car on Bitcoin, but there are people that are working on building cars on Bitcoin. It's just not as mature as on Ethereum. So right now, a lot of the banks, a lot of the fund managers, they're buying a lot of Ethereum because they understand that what they do is going on Ethereum. So they want to own the oil of the future. And that's what the major difference is. Then when you look at coins like Aave, Aave is the decentralized governance coin of the lender that we use. That lender that I told you that has $60 billion of people using this, that's Aave. You can buy their coin, and their coin allows you to vote on what happens with this digital bank. So by owning that coin, you not only take advantage of what they're doing, because that coin, not financial advice, I believe that coin would be $10,000 one day, and right now it's $300. And I have a bunch of it because we use it every day. But not only that, I get to vote on what happens in this bank. So yes, I don't have a ton of votes, but I get a vote. Do I get to vote on anything that happens in Chase, TD Bank, Bank of America? Hell no. Even if I have stock, I don't have enough stock to really make a difference. In Aave, the people own the bank. It's a decentralized bank. And this is what controls the interest rates and stuff like that. So that's how we know if I'm a person using it, I'm not going to make my interest rate too high because I use it. Versus JP Morgan Chase, they don't care. They're like, oh, we need to make more money. We're just going to make more money. And we don't care about the people. We just need more private jets, right? So that's the difference. Chainlink is a coin. It's a system that allows for multiple blockchains to keep the same data. Why is that important? If you are trading Bitcoin on one blockchain and on another, you have to make sure that the price is the same. Because if on one blockchain, Bitcoin is 108,000 and on another blockchain is 119, that doesn't work because you may be going to different chains and you have different scenarios. So what Chainlink does is it's called an oracle. It allows everyone to get the most up-to-date data. And that's why that coin is very powerful. So that's why, like, there's certain coins I always watch because I think they're like the backbone of crypto. And these are four that I think are. Arbitrum is the blockchain that we use. And I just happen to think is going to go up because a lot of people are starting to bring money into Arbitrum. For instance, a lot of decentralized finance, they're building their apps on Arbitrum. So a lot of money's coming into Arbitrum, and that means they're going to what? Want to own the coin that gives them voting power in this blockchain. So that coin has been going up, right? Second thing is Arbitrum has a fund where they fund projects in the crypto space. But the difference with this is they share the upside with the token holders of Arbitrum. So once I realized those two things, I was like, holy shit. But then the third thing hit. Robinhood just made a way for you to trade stocks on the blockchain 24/7. So you see how Robinhood is based on the market. The market closes at 5 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday. But on Arbitrum, you can trade stocks 24/7. Anybody in around the world can, except you United States people right now. They built that on Arbitrum, Robinhood. So now, eventually, they've already confirmed it on Aave. You're going to be able to bring those stocks into Aave and borrow off those stocks. So all these pieces is part of a puzzle. So when you ask about stable coins are just one-to-one to dollars. Why do you need that? So let's say right now, Bitcoin is falling. And I'm like, all right, I want to sell my Bitcoin. What do you turn it into? Because what are you selling it for if all the prices are dropping? You're going to put it in Ethereum? Ethereum's price, if Bitcoin's price is dropping, Ethereum's price is most likely dropping. So you need a coin that's stable and stays in the dollar to trade into when you think prices are falling to keep the value that you've created. So like, let's say in 5 minutes, Bitcoin goes to 250,000 and we're all here watching at that moment. We're like, oh my God, let's sell all of our Bitcoin, and the price drops right back. If you didn't have a stable coin, you couldn't take advantage of that gain. So you need some type of coin that keeps the value stable, basically. So that's the whole point of a stable coin. So now you could also use those stable coins to spend money. So just like we pay dollars and you have a debit card, you can spend those stable coins. So now all these banks are going to create their own stable coins so you can use theirs, because the way stable coins make money is when you buy a stable coin, you give $1, they give you a stable coin. The bank or whoever created that stable coin takes that dollar, puts it in the bond market, and gets 4 or 5%. So these companies have billions of dollars that they're getting 4 or 5% interest on while we trade with those tokens. So they're making hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars by just us using these tokens. So now the JP Morgan Chases of the world want to do that too. All the other banks are going to do it too. They're going to have more ways of collecting interest. So that's everything. If I missed anything or any questions around anything I just said, let me know. Nothing? Okay. So, is there a chat? I'm confused now. Hold on, let me see. So, okay. Annie, the big thing about feeling threatened by AI is I think one of the things that fix that is using it. I think why most people feel threatened is because they feel like helpless, right? Like what happens in a world where everything is done better than I can do? What you start to see is there's going to be a divide of people who do shit and people who don't. I just told you that night, I said, I've always wanted to write like a real story. I went into animation because I wanted to create stories. These tools are here. let me see if it can help me. I've done that in the past with other versions of AI. I just don't think it did as good as ChatGPT 5. I've done it with 4, done it with 3. I just didn't like what it gave me. With 5, it was amazing. So I said, okay, this is different. It feels different. But then it gave me the idea of a game. And I said, yeah, but that's too hard. No, it's not. Right? Did it the first prompt, the first thing I said to it, let's go back to that actually. The first thing I said to it, the whole game existed in like a couple seconds. And I was like, holy shit. Okay, so now you can see my screen, right? So I'm gonna save this. Let me see. All right, so I said I want the coins to disappear over a certain amount of time randomly. So okay, now we're gonna go back to the game. We're gonna refresh. Let's see if it did it. All right, let's see. Yeah, look, it's disappearing. You see it? It's still showing a little, it's still taking a little long to not disappear. So then I would say make it disappear faster. It's not disappearing in a quick enough time. So then I'll just go back here. I could say it, but I'll type it. So this is all it takes now to make anything. Just you speaking to an AI and saying, this is what I want. It goes off and does it, and it comes back. So what does that mean? If you're a person that wants to do anything, there's going to be people who talk to the AI to do it, and there's going to be people who don't. What do you think happens to the people who don't versus the people that do? If I tried to code this by hand, every single time I went in here and I said, can you do this? I would have to go through all the code and be like, all right, where is the point where I have the coins? So I gotta go look through all the code, figure that out. Then I gotta say, okay, how would I change that? Let me try this. Try that out. Oh, doesn't work. Try this out. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. 2 hours later, okay, it works. Look, it finished already. Done. So now if you compound this, every time, hour here saved, 30 minutes saved, 10 minutes saved, 2 hours saved. Literally, how can a person actually coding this compete with me if I'm doing that? Like, okay, it's happening faster. You see it? Like it's going, like that one looks like it's disappearing. Is it still there though? I guess it's not fully gone though. Okay, so I'm gonna say, and I may actually start streaming as I do this because I think people need to see it sometimes. Like it's hard to just believe somebody speaking versus seeing it in action. Okay,
Miguel, I just want to interrupt to say it's hard because there are people who you see on TV that can look at that code and make sense of the colors and the numbers. And you have bypassed that step of you don't need to make sense of it. You can let the AI do it for you.
that was
And
that was a
to
step I had.
Annie's point of not knowing how to use it, not embracing it, everyone is going to be like that until they try a different use case scenario. And so what I've created was an 8-session course for teachers showing them how to do what they do every day and use AI to enhance or time-saving capabilities. It's a great thing that's going to happen, and it's in the pipeline. But totally to the point of what you're sharing, though, I've tried 5, and to your point, it's different than 4, but haven't yet experienced all of the nuances that you're taking on right now, in part because just I don't have that interest. And so to Anne's point, it's about finding what they're interested in and how to make it
That's it.
more enhancing. I'll
That's
tell you, for my just a small case scenario, my son hates to read. Okay,
right.
had a teen, he's now still in his 20s, still hates to read. At the same time, though, if you need to understand an employee manual or what are the basic rules I need to know to do my job, and you throw that into a chat GPT and it comes back to you with 3 sentences, that's something he'll read. And so
That's
that's
it right there.
something
You're right. Like
where
this,
we need to use it.
I'm not dissimilar to your son. I actually hate reading just for reading's sake. But if there's information I really want to know, like when I first tried to learn how to code, I read a book this thick because I'm like, I need to learn this. And I like hated reading books in school, but that fucking technical handbook, I read it from front to back because I was so interested in that information that it was just like just devoured it. But again, I'm ADD, so I do have this superpower of hyper focus that if there's something I like, I'm like a magnet. If I like it, it sticks. If I don't, it's not. I don't care how much I try. It is not going to stick. I don't care how much I try to push through it. I'm just not. It's not going to happen for me. So that's a thing that I think. And actually, I meet some people. That thing is a power that I think we have to learn how to give our kids as early as possible the ability to figure out what is that for them. And right now in the beginning, like I got young kids, video games is a thing, but I'm trying to get them to see there's something in video games that make you want to still keep playing them. What is that? Yeah, there's dopamine, there's all these things, but is it your friends? You're hanging out with your friends online and playing with them? Maybe that has to do with it. Again, I'm just getting them to think about it. And my sons, we share a chat GPT. Like I let them log into mine, mostly because I want them to see how I use it. And I get to see how they use it. And I seen how it's evolved over like literally from day one I had it and I put them on it. Even though the teachers were telling them, no, don't do that. I was like, I don't care. You guys have no idea what's coming. Don't listen to anything. Use ChatGPT every single day. I don't care. I'll talk to the teachers. So they are amazing at it, and they're 15, better than adults because they use it every single day, and they get to see how I use it, and they get to see my questions and how I don't use it as a writer for me. I use it as a thinking partner, and I try to get them to see that. Okay, what are you trying to think through? Oh yeah, I have this paper. Okay, actually, there's a new mode. I haven't looked into it. I actually have multiple accounts, but I haven't looked at it. Let me find if there's a teaching mode now, actually for kids, I think. Let me see if I have it. Also, my default is ChatGPT. Study and learn. So you can tell your kids, okay, what is something you are very interested in learning? Like one of my sons always said his favorite subject, science. And I used to always say, it's a freaking tragedy that science is not the most exciting class. Like, imagine the crazy shit they could be showing these kids. But no. But now, hey, go here, ask about anything, and it will, instead of just give you the answer, it's supposed to tell you, see, help me with my homework, explain the topic to me, create a practice quiz. This is so you just don't get the answer, you're actually learning. So that's another thing. Okay, and you got a question, Annie?
Yeah, I do. So, thank you for the showing us about the whole thing. Yeah. So I've been using AI every day. I ask questions all day long. If I have a question, I just pop out my ChatGPT. I will do A/B tests with Grok. And I find very interesting fact is every time when Grok got better, ChatGPT be like, no, fuck you. I'm going to do even better. So they came out even better. So every time when I do A/B tests, I'm like, I still favor to ChatGPT to be honest. But my husband loved Grok. However, I just wonder, should I actually take a course? Because even though I use AI all day long, I will do other AIs as well too. Like there's another one is not censored. Like ChatGPT has some censor
Yeah,
for like
Grok is more
safety net.
uncensored, right? Grok is a little more
Yeah.
censored. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, like Vans. I think Vans or Vans, it's a AI not censored, but they're not as good. Like they will make really weird picture with the arm in between your belly. But anyway, so I just wonder, would that be actually good that I actually learn, like take a course, or I just already know how to use it because I use it every day. And then to my kids are so threatened. It's like, how can I have a job in the future? I was like, well, thinking
Yeah.
about blacksmith. Blacksmith back then was like everywhere, every town have a blacksmith, and they were the wealthiest, like middle class, higher middle class in every village. But then when machine came, they don't have blacksmith anymore. Same with like I don't know, other jobs, things
Well,
just change,
the thing is,
So, and then another thing, I was confused about your answers, your like Marie's questions. I don't know about a lot of crypto, but I want to learn though. Like all the attribute or how crypto work, I confused. I was like, I'm lost. So,
okay, so what I'm planning on doing, one of the things I've thought through is creating little I'm trying to figure out the best way to educate people on all the things I said in a real quick way there, because I do think people need to understand each part of this ecosystem, not only to understand what we're doing at Stack, but to understand the opportunity that's coming more. Because I think the more you are conviction that you have the conviction about this space, the more you're willing to allow the prices to be volatile and all of that. Because I think what ends up happening is most people buy Bitcoin because they think, oh, my cousin said to buy it. Then when the price falls 20%, they're like, oh yeah, fuck this, let me get out of this, right? Because you don't have the conviction, you don't really understand it enough to understand that's a good time to buy. So my goal, this is where I'm trying to learn storytelling. I have ChatGPT teaching me storytelling, right? Because one of my goals is to, yeah, sure, Maurice, I'm almost done. Is to educate through storytelling and courses. The way I take, actually, me and Annie met from a course. We both took the same course. We were in school in a school community together. I take a course and I tell myself, depending on how much I pay for it, I have an expectation going in. And as long as I get one or two or three things out of it, it was worth it. If I learned anything, it was worth it. But certain levels, like if I spend a lot, I say, okay, I need to make sure I come out of it with this. But anytime you take a course and you learn one thing, it was worth it, in my opinion. Maurice, go ahead.
Hey, Annie, I just wanted to share your pain points and say I too was like you and still like you in learning to understand the different terminology and everything that goes on with it. Miguel's a great teacher in that stick to it, listen to it, use it. I'm a fan of experiential learning, and I think children can really find that addictive. So Miguel's takeaway, or what I got from Miguel's statement in sharing ChatGPT, is really useful in the sense that if you're using it, allowing your kids to see how you use it and to see how it improves and the time saving it gives you will give them more of an opportunity to use it.
So then,
Again, coming from education, right? So I was a deputy superintendent. And because of privacy, we were all and still are no technology, no chat GPT, no, 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 no. And if the adults are like that in school, then that is what your child gets. And that is what your child will always embrace, the no, no, no. And so if you have, as the parent, are saying yes, and you model that behavior for them and you demonstrate how it could be used, it's going to make their lives much more agreeable and make them, because they trust their teachers. They've been with them just like they've been with you. And so it's important that you model it. And I'm going to say the more, just because I just heard Miguel disclose how he's becoming a storyteller. The reason why I ask more and more and for the same question is because each time I hear it, I get a deeper understanding. And so I'm sure, and if it's anything like me, just give it time. You'll embrace it. You'll understand it. Stick around for it. It's funny because I think of the financial literacy trainings I went to and the different credit counselings I've had. None of them explain the stuff that we're talking about here. This is the future. If anything, they explained the past, a
Exactly.
credit score. They explained what, you know, savings and bank loans. None of that is what we are going to, that's going to take us out of debt and take us into future. If anything, they explained, you know, debt. And so when you talk about taking a course, I think courses are great, but actually doing things and practicing it is where you're going to find your best case scenario in terms of how to excel yourself and your family. Thanks, Miguel. I know we're at time.
No problem, no problem. Great answer. And you said you have a class. Why don't you post it in the community so not just Annie can go and check it out? That's my goal too. I wanted to create this community so people interact within the community as well without me. Of course, making sure certain people, like I know Maurice, me and Maurice are part of another community, right? So me and Annie are part of another community. So I try to vet people before I allow them to pitch things. Like there's some people who come in and they start pitching and I start trying to see, are they trying to scam people before that happens? And I know as this gets bigger and bigger, it's going to get harder. And Annie, actually, thank you for pointing out somebody that was already trying to scam people. But he wasn't even part of our community, but still, he was impersonating me and text messaging people. So this is where this world is going to get even crazier. And guess what helps with that? The blockchain. Because there's going to be ways to verify not only money transfers and loans and this, but verify who you are. So that's going to be another thing. Eventually, we'll get to all that kind of stuff as well. But what I wanted to leave on is, Annie, what I studied this a long time ago when I first started trying to educate on crypto. Actually, when I first started learning this, I started trying to say, okay, how am I going to teach all these complex things? So there was this chart of learning. The first step, let me see if I find it actually. Let's ask Grok and ChatGPT actually what it thinks. Okay, so what are the best ways to learn? Right, and then let's ask Grok the same thing. So I'm paying for actually, and then we got Claude too. We're gonna ask that too. What are the best ways to learn? And then we're gonna do Claude too. What are the best ways? So I pay for all of them and I share them with my team at Stack. Overloaded. Well, maybe we may be using it too much because of development. No, okay.
This is interesting. I've never compared paid the Super Grok particularly. So I'm curious to hear how they answers compare.
All right. So best ways to learn: active learning, not just reading, watching, layered learning methods. Okay, this was it. Visual is a certain level of understanding. Auditory is another way. So looking, hearing, then there's looking and hearing, then there's doing, and then there's teaching. So that's what I always learned. And the teaching one gets you the most understanding. The doing is the next level up where you will learn it better than most by doing it. That's part of what I was saying. Go in there and just start doing it. That's the best one most people will get to. Most people don't want to end up teaching it. But then if you look at it and what Maurice just said, you start teaching your kids what you're learning by doing, and you're going to learn it even more. Right? And of course, the more courses you take, it's the same thing. You're getting information, you're doing it, and you're learning. And of course, everybody has a different angle on how they teach. So I always tell people, look, I don't care who it is. I'm always looking for the one thing I can learn from them. I don't care if it's a high school student. There's something I can learn from them, and I'm always looking for that. And it's not just within my field or within finance or whatever. It's in whatever they can teach me. Because my kids, they know a lot of stuff that I don't know. And like, for instance, when I was making this game, I was like, is this a good game though? So again, my kids play video games all day. So I said, hey, come over here. They're like, is this what you've been talking to all night? Because of course they stay up all night and now they hear me up talking to the AI. They're like, you're still awake. You're never awake at this time. And I'm like, I'm having fun making this game. So I have them play. And they're like, well, you can do this or that. And I'm like, oh, why? And they explain it to me. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do that. Then I show them. And, you know, that little back and forth, even with my kids, is cool because they're seeing, wait, you made that whole game by speaking to it? And I'm like, yeah. One of my sons, he's younger, he plays Roblox. So I'm like, let's make a Roblox game together. He's like, maybe. And I'm like, we're gonna do it because I'm gonna show you. So that's how it works. Thank you, Annie. Definitely the community, but if you want, you could always text me. I'm gonna put my number here. That's my number. You can always text me. I I might have my phone all the time unless I'm in meetings. Like sometimes I have calls and I just can't answer fast. But text me. That's the fastest way. All right.
Thank you.
So, okay, so
Thank you, guys.
your app is probably swapping today. So I see it says it's stuck on that. I'll double check and make sure that everything's working. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good rest of your day, night, wherever you are. And thanks for coming to the community call and looking forward to keeping it going. Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.